says something brand new. Let's see. Oh, one thing that I like to do is freestyle rap to in my car. No, although I may not be the best rapper out there, but it's a great exercise if you want to warm up. I'll call it your flow state, that state of mind where you're not thinking before you're speaking. The words are simply coming out. You're able to say whatever you want, whenever you want, without pretty much a filter. And that's not to say that you don't want to have a filter, because there's certain places and certain times that you want to be more aware of what you're saying, how it's coming out of your mouth, and deliver what you want to say more appropriately. But what I really like about that exercise is that it's a real, almost like confidence booster or warm-up exercise. You know, even going to a class or the gym, or even having to give a talk, that little warm-up of a freestyle rapping, you're throwing on a Metro Boomin beat, or even like a house song, believe it or not, and rapping over it. It's a really good warm-up exercise for you, so I really suggest that you try it. Something that you might find pretty cool, which I do. And guess what? You might actually turn into the next Slim Shady or 50 Cent or whatever. So who knows? I might even be one of those people. But let's say, and yeah, you don't even have to take it seriously. Right? You're just doing it for fun, whatever, not stressing yourself out over it. And you'll reap the benefits, because half the battle is won by simply showing up. You know, simply just showing up and turning on the music and starting to freestyle rap. In my mind, I won. I already put in the effort to do it. I already started moving towards what I want to do. And it could be the worst lines or bars or whatever you call it, or rap session that I've ever delivered, but you can't say that I didn't get better from it, that I didn't improve as a person. I didn't discover things that I didn't know about myself before. I did that. So do that, try that, show up, put in the work, and get better regardless of what happens. And a lot of people may fear, and I'll admit to you that I originally suffered from this, was in the initial stages of trying something out. Let's say, one example is when I did salsa classes, right? So in my school, they had a salsa club. And at first, you know, I was kind of hesitant to join, even though I had a friend pretty much begging me to go. You gotta go dance salsa, it's so much fun. And namely, she was really good at it, but I wasn't. I was still a newbie. And what that did was it made me feel really self-conscious about myself when I was dancing. And I kept procrastinating. And putting that class aside, and like, oh, do I really want to do this? You know, all those people are watching me. The girls aren't gonna like to dance with a guy who's new, and that sucks. Because I'll be honest with you, I sucked, and I knew it. And that's not to say that's a bad thing. You know, when you suck at something, you want to be honest with yourself and admit that you suck and that there's work needed to be done. But in my case, it was holding me back because it made me self-conscious. It made me worry. It made me feel like I was a disservice to the class by me being there. So with that, you know, and a big one, and often one that keeps people from doing things like giving talks and public speaking, stuff like that, because they're afraid of the opinions of others. They're afraid of people seeing them early on, you know, when they sucked, when they did bad, and the humiliation that comes with that, or perceived humiliation, because I'll say that, like, a lot of it's simply just in your head. When you mess up, people see that you mess up. It doesn't really matter. You know, people don't really care when they see someone screw up, unless it's like their money or something, or you're in charge of them. But if you're out here doing your own thing for you, trying to get better for you, why should you care what other people think? It doesn't really matter. You know, when you do that, you're giving them unnecessary control over your life, and ultimately too much control, because you want to be the decision maker of your outcomes. You don't want another random person who you probably haven't spoken 2 words to be responsible for who you are and dictate your life. Why would you want to live like that? That sounds pretty bad. Now, I wouldn't want to do like that. How good would I do if I went out here and I simply looked at everyone and looked into every car and worried, does this person like me? Does this person think I'm cool? Does this person hate me? Does this person agree with what I'm doing? No, I'd be stressed out beyond my mind. I'd be worried. I'd be very self-conscious. I'd mess up a lot more. I'd procrastinate a lot more. I probably wouldn't be out here right now because of the anxiety and fear that something like that would produce. And I would ultimately be a failure, which you can define failure as a bunch of different things, but to me, that would be horrendous. Why would I do that? So, in whatever you're doing, let's say you want to be a banker or a businessman, you know, you're not born being a super businessman with all these degrees and all these accolades to show for it and ready to work at whatever bank you want to work at. That doesn't happen. You have to go and work and go to school and get better and earn your position in that company or whatever role you want to get into. But what happens before you earn that is weeks and months and years of failure, hard failure, soft failure, and you got to be okay with that. You're not supposed to care if you get an F on a test on your way to becoming a banker, or they ask you to give a talk on everything you know about banking or whatever you want to do for a semester, and you blank out, which has happened to me before. It's probably happened to you before, it might happen to you, and you got to be okay with it. You can't let it get to you. You got to overcome it, and from that you get stronger, you grow wiser. You know, the stronger example will be physically. When you're in the gym, you put your arms and legs through absolute torture so they can fatigue and break down and grow stronger. And for your mind, your experiences, you want to put your mind through a lot of stimulus of different information from novels or teachers when you're studying, because it'll break down the old thoughts that you had and the old paradigms, those immature or incorrect, or simply ones needing polishing up, that you thought were everything to you. So those breaking down of and you can even boil it down to neural connections in your brain. That breaking down is what makes your mind stronger, better. You know, you function better, you think better, you become more mentally strong. And one concept too that reminds me of is the idea of mental toughness, mental strength. That's one big thing that comes to mind when I'm out here running. Because when I run, it may not necessarily be the most physically taxing thing, although a lot of people may argue that it takes a toll on your body. It's very strong, but it's very strenuous. There you go. And I'll say yes to that. There's a certain degree of physical prowess that needs to be attained when you're doing stuff like this, but the majority of it is mental. Most of it's simply just in your mind. A lot of BS, and it'll come to you in waves usually, sometimes continuously if it's really bad. But you know, I'll say it like this, like after every mile or so, that little marker itself reminds me that, hey, you did another mile. How are you not tired? How are you not more tired than the mile before? You know, you went this far, you ran this hard, you ran this fast. How can you feel the same after that? Because, so you can say that, yeah, that we're like cars, right? So a car with 100,000 miles on it, it's not gonna be the same as a car with 110,000 miles on it. So, and we as humans aren't like cars. We can't go for hundreds of thousands of miles, obviously, but you get the gist. You know, when you're running, you pick up the mileage, you get more wear and tear from running so much, and it takes a toll. And yes, that in and of itself will make you more tired physically and more worn out. But a lot of it's mental. A lot of it's just the idea of seeing that number plastered up on the dash or in your head, because that's all it is. There's nothing more than that. Without that reminder, you probably won't even be aware of it. You won't even think twice between that.